There are two broad categories of flex offices, right? One is managed office and one is co-working. And then you also have conventional offices where you take a floor on rent or you take a particular part of the building on rent and then you furnish it and then use it, right? So let's look at which office is ideal for your company, right? And I'm going to base this purely assuming that, let's say, the budgets are kind of very similar for different kinds of companies. They're looking at the same city, same locality, right? I'm going to keep all those variables aside. I'm going to purely keep flexibility and other aspects around flexibility as the primary point for discussion. So, what should smaller companies take? What should mid-sized companies take? And what should larger companies take? And that's what I'm going to kind of analyze and provide you from my experience thoughts on this video. So, number one, let's take small companies, right? And I'm going to define that by less than 20 employees in size. So, what should a 20 employee sized company take, right? My option here, hands down, would be co-working. Is that because you're an early stage startup or an early stage company, you don't still know how you're going to grow, whether you're going to grow at all, or is there going to be a stagnancy in growth? So you don't know many aspects of your growth, right? And you at this stage need to have the maximum flexibility to either grow in the same facility or to grow in other parts of the country or to grow in another larger office space. So a lot of unpredictability in kind of when it comes to fixing an office space. So co-working offers the most convenience and most flexible terms. You can take a co-working space on a 3-month lock-in period as well, or a 6-month lock-in period. With players like GoFloaters, you can actually take it on for a given day, for a given week, for a month. You can actually go month on month. So there are different flexible models available with co-working operators. That I think is the ideal input for your company because there's a lot of volatility in the situation, right? Now, if you're a 20 to 50 employee company, you could potentially consider both co-working and managed offices. But here again, my opinion tilts in favor of co-working for the reasons that managed offices typically would ask you for a 2-year agreement. It's difficult to grow out of a managed office, right? Because you've customized this office to your requirement. You've built the office to your requirement. Now, if you need 5 extra seats, you need 10 extra seats. That flexibility is always going to be harder to come by, right? For growth and expansion within the same space. And also signing 2-year agreements, 2-year leases is probably still not advised in the current financial and economic situation, right? So I would still recommend co-working for the flexibility and the fact that you can grow, go up, go down as per your choice, right? And now if you're a 50 and above or even 100 employees and above, managed offices become quite an important choice because when you are slightly larger, your IT and security requirements also get a little bit more complicated, right? You might want, and again, this depends on the industry that you are in, right? You might want your own server room, you might want your own UPS, you might want your own, let's say, internet connection, right? And you might want to design the office as per your design standards, as per how you think your staff need to use the space. Maybe you might want more collaborative spaces and less of workspaces, or a combination of that. So your choices will be more easily accommodated by a managed office operator who will be able to build the office to your design, to your specs, and hence you will get a lot more customization options with the managed office operator than with the co-working operator. And managed office operators also tend to be a little more economical than an equivalent co-working operator, purely because of the reason that you are committing to a longer period of rent with them, right? You're locking in for a 2-year or a 3-year term. So that by definition can lower down your monthly rent, right? And you can also amortize your customization cost into your rent, right? So you can pay, it convert into an OPEX than a CAPEX. So you get a lot of advantages or options through a managed office operator that a co-working operator may not be able to give you. And even if they're willing to give you, a co-working operator customization costs are quite high because they have to break few things, they have to dismantle a few things before they can customize it for you, because most of the co-working operators would have already built the space. So for them to customize something, they'll charge you more than, or they'll factor in more costs for that. than a typical co-working operator, or sorry, managed office operator would do. So based on your growth trajectory, if you're growing extremely fast, right, you're raising investments and you're kind of doubling up your growth rates, and that's the plan, then stick with co-working, because that will give you a lot of flexibility and a lot of options to move out or to grow within the space or expand in multiple cities without having to go through a lot of contract breakages and penalty clauses and so on and so forth. If you are in a steady growth, you can predict what your team size is going to be for the next year or year and a half, and you need an office that is spec to your design, right? You have specific requirements that you want to be accommodated in the office, then a managed office operator would be more viable for you, and also like slightly more economical than co-working spaces.